Third part. Aro went to his room where he slung his quiver over his shoulder and grabbed his bow before going to the barn to confirm the bard's absence. The answer was evident soon enough. Letitia appeared behind him. Mr. No-Name, he isn't here, is he? No. He can't be a noble, can he? It was lighter when we met him. Right. Then the noble that Mr. and Mrs. Sevillon saw couldn't have been Mr. No-Name. No, it had to be. Letitia stared at her betrothed in astonishment. What do you mean? You've heard the stories about the noble who walks under the sun. Aro began to pace and brush past Letitia. Of course I have. But those are just stories. Not necessarily. I heard from the Anti-Nobility Alliance that the Sacred Ancestor has the Science Center in the capital working on a number of projects. One of them is called the Vampires Living in the Day Project. What a long name. Long is right. Aro's voice came from behind Letitia. But that's not possible. A noble walking about during the day. I don't believe it. Believe it? Aro wrapped his arms around her neck. No. Try as she might, she could not wriggle free. Feeling his hot breath on the nape of her neck, Letitia let out an imperceptible moan. We mustn't. Not here. We'll be married soon enough. He brought his lips to her pale flesh, making Letitia gasp. Pulling away immediately, he said, So the bard is a noble. But if you ask me, there are others who are more suspicious. Who? What happened to the Sevengonians? They left while you were in your room. You don't think. Did you notice how they kept fixing their scarves? Both? Maybe they did more than see the noble. Do you mean they were bitten? I'm afraid not, said a calm voice. Aro and Letitia twirled around in the direction of the voice. Mr. and Mrs. Sevengonian. Unlike earlier, the couple stood in the barn, smiling. We haven't been bitten. Look. Mrs. Sevengonian pulled down her scarf. Her neck was tinted yellow with black speckles. It's true we encountered the noble, said Sevengonian. We were about to feast on him in the prairie, but you got in the way. We came here to express our gratitude, but after feeding on this couple first. He unfurled his scarf, revealing his brightly colored neck. Long nails grew out of the man's fingers, each of the digits sprouting into gangling legs, and feelers before Aro's and Letitia's very eyes. The ghost spiders. No sooner had Aro said it than the impostors' clothes would run away. There were 3 of you. Where is the 3rd? Paying a visit to your parents. The woman's voice descended from 3 meters above. Attached to its neck was a squat, ovular body, held up by 8 legs, measuring 10 meters. 2 siblings carrying out a secret affair. Where is your bow now? Too late. The male spider's legs lashed out, sending the bow flying across the barn and crashing against the far wall. We'll make short work of the noble when he returns. He's probably out drinking his full of human blood. It must be quite a feast. Exactly right. Exactly right. The spiders recoiled in shock. When they shot a look at the entrance, the wind let out a sharp whistle. The spot of the face of the female Sevengonian was lifted up and suspended 5 meters in the air. Greylancer stood entranced by the silver lance impaling the spider, its face already frozen in the throes of death, as blood gushed like a waterfall down the handle. I discerned your true identity just as you did mine. A sense of foreboding brought me back here soon, after sating my thirst. And lo and behold, here you are. Pity. If you'd not harbored thoughts of revenge, perhaps you might have lived a day longer. Look at how you writhe and suffer. Vermin that you are, nothing is more precious than the pleasure of watching a woman meet her end. The nameless troubadour pulled back the lamps and struck again. The female spider's body flew off the lamps, crashed against the ceiling, and exploded into pieces. Greylancer spun around and looked overhead. The male spider, Sephagonin, had jumped and had clung to the ceiling. Moonlight poured in from the 1-meter square skylight above. Sephagonin broke through the window headfirst and slipped out, stretching his 8 legs behind him like an octopus. As shards of glass rained down around him like jewels, and Greylancer kicked the ground. Grabbing the window frame with one hand, he hoisted himself up onto the roof in one motion. Barely looking around, he spotted Sephagonin scurrying away and leaping onto the next roof. It was the very silhouette of a giant spider leaping beneath the moonlight. "Aro," Greylancer called down below. "Can you shoot him down? Do not disgrace your master's name." The answer was a sharp whizzing noise from the window. Only Greylancer's eyes were able to recognize the arrow. The fiendish instincts from the spider, already but a speck in the distance, sensed its coming. The spider jumped from the roof. The house was located at the end of the road, across from which was a square, where there stood the gutted remains of a religious building and a stone hut made of 3 enormous slabs. 50 years ago, a research team sent from the capital discovered a sarcophagus enshrined underground. Contained within the sarcophagus was a mummified humanoid creature, dating back 3,000 years. Its origin was never identified, though the research team had taken with them its garments, necklaces, and various other articles. The results of the analysis were never made known to the village. The ghost spider slipped inside the hut. It was completely enclosed in stone, so not even a razor blade could enter the chamber. The spider's was the only route in and out of the hut, and there was no way an arrow shot from the rear could enter. The spider allowed himself a moment's peace. It was still smarting from the pain and terror of when its parent body was shot down in the prairie. One of its 3 lungs were let out a breath. Then the ghost spider expelled what breath was left in its remaining lungs. Before the spider realized the arrow had entered through the front and pierced a hole in the middle of the forehead, clear through the back, the spider was already dead. Fate indicated by a small cross. "Got him?" Greylancer asked, after jumping from the roof and landing next to Aro in the barn. Aro nodded and grunted his satisfaction at having proved his skill, following his 3 kills from earlier in the day. "There is another. Go." "All right." Notching another arrow in the bow, Aro ran for the main house, drawing a bead on wherever the target might be, stopping at nothing to shoot through its jugular. Such was the meaning of the wicked bow's existence. And the proud, even arrogant expression on the noble's face vanished instantly the light snow upon looking at the lithe shadow. Letitia, the girl who adored the nameless troubadour, shook her pretty head. "Who was it that sang that song for me?" "It was I," Greylancer answered. "Who are you?" "Greylancer, overseer of the northern frontier sector." "Then I do not know you." Letitia's voice sounded exceedingly mournful and clear at the same time. "The man who gave me my song was someone who traveled distant lands, someone who'd promised to tell me about all the things he'd witnessed and seen, someone who'd bashfully composed a very lovely and sad song. Why didn't you feed on my blood?" "I must take my leave." Greylancer started toward the wagon. A siren blared from the open door, the emergency alarm. "Someone must have discovered my blood victim. I commend the rest to you." Is that why you came? I couldn't bring myself to drink your blood. Your brother has only been hypnotized. I will release him when I've left the village. I wish you a happy life." The giant exited through the barn door and returned pulling a cybernetic horse. The girl pointed a pale finger outside. "You should go to the West Country Highway and head north by northeast." After a breath, Greylancer said, "You have my gratitude," and flicked the reins. The wagon sped off out of the barn. Letitia stood there until the rattling of the wagon left the property and receded into the night. "Dance, will you? Dance, will you? Cut the strings of fate into the night." Several minutes later, Aro returned and informed Letitia that he had avenged the death of their parents, who'd be killed by the elusive third ghost spider. Chapter 5, End.